All right, we have our issue submitters and presenters coming online. I'll give it just another minute. Looks like we've got a fairly good attendance rate already. Welcome. Okay. Okay, I only see a couple more that are still connecting to audio, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hope all of you are doing well. My name is Becky Boat. Many of you may recognize me as Becky Krzyzanowski of the old years. Of course, my name has changed since our last biennial meeting, so I am one and the same, still me. And I am the issues co-chair for this biennial meeting. My other co-chair is present with us today. That's Patrick Guzzle. Patrick, can you?
Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm present. I think you're doing a great job. I'd rather go off camera, but I'll be on if you need me to.
No, I'll be sharing my screen for now, so you could go ahead and go off if you would like. And then I also wanted to introduce I'm looking to see if they're here, but we've got plenty of screens full of people. I wanted to introduce our council chairs and vice chairs if they are present, so everybody can put a name with a face that they've been talking to over the last few months. So we have for Council 1, Ann Johnson. There she is. Hi, Ann. All right. And then her vice chair is Tom McMahon. Oh, maybe Tom's not with us. All right. And then Council 2, we have Sharon Wood. No, Joe is. Her vice chair is Joetta DeFrancisco. Hi, Joe. Okay. And then Council 3, we have Keith Jackson. And then I just saw Christine Applewhite. There she is. Hi, Christine. Okay, so those are the people who will be running the show next week for all of our council sessions. So those are the ones that we're going to be contacting when we have questions about issue submitters and stuff like that. Okay, host 500. Raise your hand. I don't know who you are.
Yeah, Becky, it's Keith. Hi, Keith. I can't see my. So I'm trying to figure out who I am. So I am host 500. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Keith. Yes. Well, there's two of them, but do you need me to rename you?
Becky, this is Patrick. I'm seeing several host 500s. Yes. So you might just want to review the renaming process and see if people can do that and take care of it themselves.
That's going to be real quick. That's one of our first part of the presentations is name tagging. So we will go over that in just a second. Okay, and sorry, Keith, I changed you. I didn't know if you had caught which one you were. All right, thank you. All right, and then of course, we also have with us today David Lawrence, who is our conference chair. There he is. Brenda Bacon, who is our conference vice chair.
Video. Start video.
Okay, there she is. Hi.
Hi.
And then she's with Jeff Hawley. All right, and then we have Dave McSwain, who is our executive director. And Vicki Everly is our executive assistant. So those will be the faces you will see for the next week or so. All right, so we will go ahead and get started with our slideshow. in a second. I have to move all of you guys. All right, so welcome everybody. I hope you guys are excited for next week. I know that many of you submitted issues, well over a year ago. I've been patiently waiting for the chance to be able to deliberate those issues. So it's exciting that next week starts that process. It is, unfortunate that we had to go with a virtual format. I know many of us love being in that same room together and the networking opportunities, but this virtual format has given us an opportunity to do many things that we haven't been able to do in years past, such as issue submitter and issue presenter training. So you guys are our first time attempting a issue presenter or issue submitter training. So thanks for that trial. Okay. So for today, we're going to go over a little bit about the platform that we're going to use and then virtual name tags. As Patrick mentioned before, we're going to go over how to change your name and what we would like to see your name used for issue submitters and issue presenters, so you're a little easier to find. As you can see, today we have close to 100 participants. It was 3 full screens to try to click through. That gets very cumbersome. Once we start talking about next week, there could be magnitudes of that many people to have to go through. So by having some virtual name tags, it'll make it a little easier. We'll talk about the Identify app and then the actual virtual issue presentation along with the council deliberation process, and then we will open it up for questions. So for today, just to make things a little easier, please make sure, because of bandwidth issues, that you have your camera off, and also due to background noises and stuff that you are muted. Once the Q&A session starts, then we will recognize you to speak. We will use either the raise hands or the chat feature, but we do ask that you hold all your questions until the Q&A portion of the presentation. Okay. We have turned off the chat. Right now, the chat is only going to host or co-host until the Q&A session. At that point, I will open up the chat so that everybody can see it. Okay. So Conference Direct is the management system that we have contracted with to go ahead and run our virtual biennial meeting this year. And they are using the Pathable platform. So all of you, in order to get to this link, had to get your Pathable link, and you had to go in and set up your login and all that information. So those links were specific to you. They do go to your login. So if you do try to share those links with others, that won't work because they'll need to log in as you. So keep that in mind. Here's our landing page for what the conference looks like. So this will be the home page, and it gives you all the information. And I know David Lawrence has a nice little message at the bottom of that screen. To make it easier for your issue presentation, it would be best to have an Ethernet connection. If you do not have that, but you have good Wi-Fi, that is also acceptable, but you do have to be either on Wi-Fi or Ethernet of some sort of internet so that you can get into the meeting through the Wi-Fi. Again, that stable internet connection is really important. Slow speeds obviously will slow things down, and things will be moving at a very fast pace. Okay. It is recommended that you download the newest Zoom. And there is a link in this presentation which will be posted, and I will also send the slide deck out to all the issue submitters that were in the email that got the announcement. Okay. So there is recommendations to download the newest Zoom and to use Google Chrome through or Safari or Firefox has issues sometimes. So Google Chrome is probably the best option to use. And you need to allow pop-ups in your browser. Okay. Obviously, having the best type of system to run the platform is going to be the best solution. Again, we're going through 3 councils and caucus meetings and all of the moving parts that a normal CFP on-site, we're just trying to do it all virtually. So being able to move from council room to council room, you're going to need to be able to have the ability to work on a computer desktop is probably going to be the best, and something with the high-speed internet and plenty of bandwidth. Okay, you guys have all claimed your account because you're here. Once you're into there, you can set up your account. We do suggest that you edit your profile and go ahead and add a profile picture. That way people can recognize you. I know I am one for recognizing faces before names. So, and then updating your bio and your contact info will help with the networking features. If you do have issues remembering your password, there is an option to reset your password and to recover your password. Okay. You'll use that top bar to help navigate. So many of you were then into the agenda portion today. You saw the full agenda. You can add individual things that you want to be involved with into your my agenda, and then that will show from there. Okay, so there's what the my agenda, full agenda. Okay, and you can use the little box to click on in order to add it to your agenda. Okay. And I'm sure you noticed from today's meeting that you'll get a countdown timer for these meetings. So when you go into the meeting by clicking onto it in your agenda, you're not immediately going to just go right into a session room. You'll get a countdown timer, and then in there will be a red box that says join meeting. So like when the council sessions are live, you'll be able to go from one meeting to the next because those red join meeting boxes will be up. You'll not be able to go into multiple council sessions at one time. So you'll have to leave one council session to go to the next. Okay. In the who's who, we'll give you all attendees as well as your council members, your committees, anybody who's speaking, and then the assembly of delegates. So you can go in and see who's who. And if you do have someone that you would like to chat with, you can go ahead and click on them and send them a message. It sends it through their email. It does. It's not like a chat box where everybody can see. It's a private email address. Okay. And if at any time during the conference you need help, there is a help desk option, and we do have help support during the conference. Okay, for tech support. Okay, so that's just kind of a little overview of Conference Direct and Pathable to help you next week to make sure you can get in and are prepared so that when it is time for you to present your issue, you're in and ready to go. Okay, so the next thing that we need to handle is how to do your name tags. Okay, so in the 3 little dots that are next to your name, either in your picture or down below, you will see an option to rename. We're trying to make things as easy as possible with the fact that we don't have that normal on-site setup where you have the round council member tables in the front and the audience sitting towards the back, and then the issue presenter comes up to the microphone. Since we don't have that option to have that visual, we're trying to use these name tags to give us the same visual kind of, in a way. Obviously it won't be the same, but that way we can identify one another, especially when it's time for issue presenting. This will be very important if we need to kind of go search councils for you. Okay, so if you're an issue presenter or an issue submitter, we'd like you to put IS or IP with a dash, and here's the examples over here. Okay, and then your name. Obviously use the name that you would like to be called. So, you know, I'm Rebecca Vogt, but normally everybody calls me Becky. So I would use Becky, you know, I'm using issue chair Becky Vogt for next week. so that people recognize that name. Okay. The difference between issue submitter or issue presenter is if you're the submitter, but you're planning on having someone be an issue presenter because you're not going to be able to do the actual presenter, you can be the issue submitter and your backup person can be the issue presenter. Okay. Or if you're replacing somebody who was not able to be at the conference and you're just presenting, but your name was not on as an issue submitter, then you can use the IP as your initials. So your choice. Okay. And then you'll also see these other name tags as you navigate through the different screens. So our council members will be identified by chair, vice chair. A VM is for the voting member. So if they're a council voting member and they're with industry or regulator or consumer academia, then they'll have that initial or that small letter after their voting member and then their name. So if there is a process through deliberation and you want to maybe be involved with an amendment later on, you know, it's a tabled issue and they're going to amend it later, and you want to search out a voting member for Council 3 who's a industry member because they may relate to the amendments you're thinking of, then you would look for that VM3 with an I afterwards. If you are both a council member and an issue submitter or presenter, your council name always supersedes your issue submission or presenter name tag. So use that council name tag only. I did notice the other day on some of the council trainings, there were a few people who put the IP after their name. I didn't have issue with that. If any of our issue or our council chairs have anything to say about that, they can jump on, but it would be imperative that you don't put it in front of your name, because as you can, I don't know if you can tell from the screen, your name gets chopped off. So it would be very hard for the council chairs and the council vice chairs to see the name to call on you if you have a bunch of name tag abbreviations before your name. So if you are going to do something after your name, that's fine. Okay. The other thing is if you are a participant or an audience, we are asking for your name and either your employer or your representative. You know, if you're a regulator or an industry member and you don't want to put your employer, you can put that. That's just for in the event you want to be an audience member who wants to be recognized to speak. So as you can see here, we have Andrew Squigmon from Milwaukee Brewing Company. Okay, so if you guys want to go ahead, let me see if I can, and try renaming yourself. I see some of you already have. And then we'll make sure at the end of this, if anybody has issues, has problems. I have to remember that issues have multiple meanings here, right? If anybody has problems, we will address those at the end and see if we can't give you some assistance. Yes, I see some of you have gone ahead and changed your name tags. Thank you. Yes, Keith.
So the IS and the IP distinction, we decided on that because if we need to identify you quickly, that's really the quickest way for us to identify you within the Brady Bunch screen. I like my Brady Bunch screen. But so, James Kaplan, I see very quickly that he's an issue presenter by having the IP in front of his name. So this is really to help us identify you quickly. And what I would say is if you're changing from one council, I know we have at least one council member from like one council that's an issue presenter to the other council, that change will help me identify you when you come into my council room really, really fast. So that's why we've instituted these acronyms, if you will.
Yep. Instead of having the little name tags on the bottom of your lanyard like we do on site, this is just kind of another way to handle that. Okay. Okay, so I know, James, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question about the naming?
Yes, I think my question is that even if I identify myself as an IP, when there's 30 or something issues, that's still going to be confusing. So are you expecting that as the issue comes up, people then identify themselves as you move on to the next issue, then I'm renaming myself so that IP comes off my name, so it's easier for you guys to identify who is a presenter or a submitter?
In council chairs, you can jump in, but yes, once you're
Oh,
you're done, I would say you can go ahead and just change to your name. Yes. Keith?
Yeah, so Becky, what I would add is what we would do is, James, is we would say, James Kaplan is here to present. James, can you turn your camera on? Once you turn your camera on, then we see you. And then in the system, you can set the system up to where you are only able to see folks with their camera on. So that moves you up. And so it makes it real easy for us to coordinate and keep things moving and identify you once you turn your camera on.
Yeah, and I think James's question was more as to once he's done presenting, he's done for the whole week. Can he just change his name, or should he just change his name back? And yes, I mean that would help weed out the people who are already done presenting.
I think that's correct. We hadn't considered that, but that's a good suggestion, James. So once your issue is complete, then you can remove the IP distinction from your name tag.
Okay. So the next kind of thing we're going to touch on is the Identify mobile app. We did use this at the last biennium down in Virginia. So some of you in 2018, some of you may have already used Identify. I know Shirag said something this morning that if you've changed employers, you may have to sign in for Identify under new login information. But if you're still the same person and still with the same employer from last time, you can go ahead and use Identify that you had. And if you can tell, I have not downloaded it yet. It's still in my cloud, but I still have that app from last time. Okay, and I will probably have to create a new one because my name obviously has changed since then. Okay. So in the Identify app, that's where you're going to get things like important messages, welcome message. The schedule will be also in the Identify. There'll be some council information, as well as all the issues, issue attachments, and late breaking issues are located in the app, and all of our sponsors are listed in there. So, and that is a good way to network and chat, because we will not have the chatting features available to you during council sessions. If you want to chat with other participants and use some of the games and stuff that were used back in 2018, then I would suggest go ahead and getting in Identify. The most important thing for you guys as issue submitters is this is where you can track issue progress. So it won't be necessarily immediate, but it will be fairly real time, much like the boards that used to be outside of the council rooms. You will have an idea of where you're at in deliberations for each council. So if you're sitting in council 1 but want to know what issue number they're currently debating in issue 3, then you can use Identify to give you that progression. Okay, so how will you know when it's your turn for to present the issue, right? So that's where Identify comes in. Okay. Typically, issues are deliberated in numerical order. So if you know your issue 3-008 and you're sitting in council 1 and you kind of want to know where council 3 is, and you look and Identify and they're at council, or they're at issue 3-007, might be a good time for you to jump over into council 3 so you're ready for your presentation when it comes up. So this allows you to navigate between the different council sessions, but keep an idea of where you might be. That's not always sometimes council deliberations can be tabled and that moves up your issue faster. Sometimes council deliberations can go longer and extra time is added. Typically, they give a set amount of time for how long they anticipate the deliberation to be, although that's an estimate. If they say we have 10 minutes for each issue to be deliberated, some may take 5 or 6, and so that's moves you up faster. Some may get extended by motions within council, which could take it longer, but that just gives you a general idea of how to use the Identify app and keep track of where issues are in the different councils. All the council chairs have asked that you provide them with your cell phone number. So if you have not done that yet, then please provide that number to the council chair for the council that your issue is going to be presented in. That way they can reach out to you directly if they have questions, concerns, if they need to reach you, if they need to know where you're at. If you're sitting on council and your issue is coming up in another council, they can give you a warning. Okay. So that brings up the fact of what if I'm a council member and I'm on a different council than where my issue is being presented. Okay, so the council vice chairs, last I heard, and they can correct me if I've got that wrong, but council vice chairs will be sending council members from different councils a text warning that their issue is going to be up for deliberation soon, so that they're approaching that time frame, so that they kind of have a 2-minute warning or so to get over. But you can't just leave. So that's the important thing to know. If you're on council and you need to be excused so that you can go to another council to present, you have to request that you be excused from your council chair, from the council that you're currently sitting on. Okay. So say you're a council 2 member, voting member, and you're in active deliberations for an issue, and you were the one who made the original motion to accept the issue, and that issue is still being deliberated. There is a good chance that the council chair is going to go, sorry, I can't excuse you because we need you here in case we need a friendly amendment to the motion you made. Because you made the motion, you have to be there for the rest of the deliberation. Another instance may be if we've had something come up and there's not a quorum. So if you leave, you're currently at quorum for a deliberation, but if you leave to go present, that may no longer give us a quorum to continue deliberation. So that means the council that you're on would have to stop their deliberations for you to go present somewhere else. We want to avoid that as much as possible. So it's a good idea to maybe have a second issue presenter ready in the event you're not able to be excused. When you have to be excused, text the vice chair for the council that you're on, the one you're currently duties to be a voting member. You want to text the vice chair there and let them know that you need to be excused, and will let the council chair know that you need to be excused from that deliberation so you can go present somewhere else. You won't be replaced unless you absolutely have to leave and aren't planning to continue on as a council member after that. But you can leave to go present somewhere else and then come back to council when you're done presenting. We just ask that you do that quickly so that you can be there for all the rest of the deliberations on your council. So best bet is to have that second issue presenter ready. If you're on the council that you're going to be presenting to, it's not an issue. You can present while you're still there for the council. Council chairs or vice chairs, you have anything to add for that?
I think you did a great job covering it, Becky. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks, Ann.
I agree. Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome. Okay, so, was that Keith?
Nope, that was Tom. I was just concurring.
Oh, thanks, Tom. Okay, So now what if you're presenting an issue on one council and all of a sudden another issue of yours comes up in another council? So you're standing in front of council 2 giving your presentation, and all of a sudden your issue in council 1 also comes up. What happens? What do we do? Well, I have volunteered, and I voluntold, I guess, Patrick, that we would be navigating between council rooms. So we'll kind of look for those situations by kind of trying to keep track of what issues are coming up and who needs to be present. And if we see that somebody is actively presenting their issue in one council and they have another issue coming up quickly in another council, we will notify the chair of the one that it's coming up in that they're still tied up presenting in the other council, so that then it will be up to that council chair to decide how to handle that situation. It may be that the council decides to table the issue so till you're able to come over to that council and present your issue. Or, you know, there's a couple different, you may be able to leave the deliberation there that you're in if you're actually done with your 2-minute presentation and no longer needed and can come over. So we will be there to help with those instances. And then if you're unable to present your issue, so something comes up, you have an emergency, please, notify that council chair or vice chair. You are allowed to have an alternate present for you. So if you are issue submitter 1 and your issue submitter 2 is not able to be there, and all of a sudden you're also not able to be there, you can designate somebody to present that issue for you. So I would just notify the council chair that you've had to step away due to an emergency or what, you've had to step away, and that so-and-so will be presenting the issue for you. Okay. Other options are the council could table your issue. That's up to the council to do that if there's not an issue submitter or issue presenter there when it comes time to present the issue. And the other option could be that the council just proceeds with their deliberations without an official issue presentation. Okay, that is allowed. We do not have to have an issue presenter present in order to be able to deliberate it at council. Okay. Issue, anything from council chairs to add? Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward. So now you've been called, right? You know your issue's coming up. You're sitting in your council, ready for your issue. Make sure while you're navigating between councils and while you're participating as an audience member, that your microphone is muted and your video is off. Like Keith mentioned earlier, we really only want those council chairs, council vice chairs, and the council voting members' cameras to be on. It helps reduce bandwidth, helps keep all of them on the Brady Brunch screen without having external people there. Not that we don't want to see all of your lovely faces, but we do. But during that council session, we really need to have the 23 or 24 people that are imperative to the deliberations be on the screen and easily viewable. So your camera will be off and your microphone will be muted. Be careful when muting your microphone that you do it through the Zoom platform. If you do it on your device and you're also muted in Zoom, then you have that dreaded double mute and you think you unmuted yourself and you start talking and nobody can hear you because you're also muted either on your device or Zoom. So we suggest that always mute and unmute yourself from the Zoom platform itself and not from your device. Okay. Once the council chair announces your issue number and your title and recognizes you to speak, then you can turn your camera on, unmute yourself. Okay. The scribe who's going to be present at council will put your original issue submission up onto the screen for everybody to see. And then you'll have your presentation time, and we'll kind of go into presentation details in just a second, but you'll have your presentation time, you'll do your presentation, and then you need to remember to put yourself back on mute through Zoom and turn the camera off because you're done presenting. Okay, so what does that issue presentation look like? Well, we're trying to make it look much like you would if you were standing in the room at the microphone. Okay, so you'll have your camera on, you'll be unmuted, and you're gonna have roughly 2 minutes to do your issue presentation. Council votes on how much time they want to give issue presentations. That's the same for everybody in that council. And right now, the target is 2 minutes because of the time frame that we have with issue deliberations and everything else. We need to keep the issue presentations short. So as a previous issue presenter, my suggestions to you are don't reread what you've already given council, right? So they have that in paper format. They have it in computer format in front of them. They've already reviewed that, done all their research and homework on that. So rereading that to them is not going to be the most valuable use of your 2 minutes. Focus on your main points. If there's any additional information that's come up, especially since it's been, what, 18 months or so since we've gotten these issues ready and submitted it, you know, there might be additional information you feel is important and you want to share with them. Give anecdotal evidence or maybe even some examples of public health significance that can help your issue. So this is the time to sell it, right? This is the time to be like, this is why this is passionate and important to me, and use that 2 minutes wisely. Now we have, because of the unique situation of the delay for the last 18 months, we have put in a system for modifications. So if you're an issue submitter and you wanted to make modifications to your issue that you want the council to consider, those have to be submitted ahead of time. Used to be in person that you could bring your modifications in paper format and you had to bring 23 copies and you had to bring a flash drive so that the scribe could have it. Well, because we don't have that option with a virtual, we had to set a deadline so that it gives our council members time to find those modifications, download them, and have them ready. So if you have a modification, send those modifications to Dave McSwain before 4 p.m. on August 12th, 2021. We suggest you make modifications using track changes to your original submission and do them in red so they're easily identifiable. And you can present that modification during your 2 minutes. So give yourself plenty of time to go over your modifications if you do have any. Just as a note, that council does not have to take the modification. They can consider it, they'll see it ahead of time, but modifications are not automatic. So it's not an automatic change in your original submission. Okay. I think I saw, Angie, did you still have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you on that. One of
Yes.
the program standard committee issues that we submitted, we worked with FDA within the last 6-8 months, and they've already done what we asked them to do. So should we submit a modification, or just when we present the issue, should we just say, you know, that FDA has already done this for us? So a no action is actually what we would probably expect on that one. But I
That's
think
the best.
recommendation I had gotten before was to just go ahead and do it that way,
Yes.
but I wasn't sure. So, okay, thank you.
I would do that because it still does need to go through that official, have a no action taken on it. So, and it can be a no action because submitter withdrew, or no action because FDA has already instituted the change, or however council decides.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, again, once you've done your 2-minute issue presentation, you turn off your camera, you mute yourself again, and now you're considered an audience member for the rest of the deliberations. So you're not, you know, now it's in the hands of the the people around the council square. They're the Brady Bunch square is now going to take your issue submission and they're going to debate it from there as to how it should be handled. And we'll go over what that looks like in a minute for those of you who are new to this process. Okay, if you want to be recognized to speak again, so if there's a clarification that you feel that you need to make to help with the deliberations, you can't just speak out. You have to actually be recognized by the council chair again. You will do that by in the chat. The chat's going to be restricted to go only to the host and co-host, kind of like it is right now. And the council chair, vice chair will, they'll inform, you'll request time in the chat. You'll just put request time. That's it. Don't put the question, don't put anything else, just put request time. The council chairs, vice chairs, they will inform the council members of that request. And then it's up to the council members to then say that they would like to turn their time over or request recognition that for you to speak again. So the council members have the option to request clarifications. So as they're debating, if they say, oh, hey, I want to ask the issue submitter a question because I'm not real clear on this, then the council members can call on the issue submitter. And then the council chair will recognize you to speak. And again, you can unmute yourself and turn your camera on, answer that question, and then turn it back off. Typically, again, that's a 2-minute time frame or a 1-minute time frame that they give you. That's all decided ahead of time in our rules of engagement as to how much time each council member has to ask questions or clarify stuff during deliberations. Okay, or the issue submitter can also recognize you based on your request time. They can recognize you and give you additional time to speak in lieu of their time to speak. So is that clear? Once you've presented your 2 minutes, you're now an audience member and you will wait to be recognized to speak again, either through an issue submitter asking for you to be recognized or you requesting time and then an issue council member requesting that you have additional time. Okay. Here is what the rules of engagement look like. So we have our three councils. Council 1 is our laws and regulations. Council 2, our education, certification, administration. A lot of times what our bylaws and internal processes and procedures go through. Council 3 is our science and technology. Those councils, once they get an issue and they debate, they pretty much have just these 3 options, right? They can accept it as written. So it's accepted as how you submitted. They can accept it as amended, so they can deliberate it and make amendments to that and walk through those amendments as a council and decide that's where they want to end up. And then they accept it as amended, or they take no action. If they take no action, there does have to be a reason for no action. So, and we have some specific no action reasons, like Angie mentioned earlier, they've now decided the work's been done by FDA, so they're not really going forward with the issue. So there would be no action because the work has been done, or the issue submitter withdrew their issue. Okay. So here's the conference flow. Your issues are submitted. That was done back in, can you believe it, December of 2019. Seems like an entire lifetime ago. We, of course, we reviewed those issues, worked through some things with many of our issue submitters. We then worked through assigning those to council. That's how they got their numbers. If you've noticed, we do try, we assign these to council. The council chairs were very good about trying to lump them into similar type issues. You present your issue here in between this, and that's when the council deliberates the issues. They give one of 3 recommendations. Once we have all of our recommendations, they get compiled into a packet that goes to the Assembly of Delegates. The Assembly of Delegates will happen next Friday, August 20th. Okay. And from there, the Assembly of Delegates has basically the option to accept the recommended solutions up here or reject the recommended solutions. We then publish them. If there's something that needs to be assigned to CFP committees, that gets done. The council chairs will, let's see, in about, I think, and Vicki can correct me, but I think like about 2 weeks or so after, you'll get a link to sign up for CFP committees that were created during the conference. You'll be able to choose your first, second, and third preference for committee work. And we are asking for all hands on deck because we have a very short biennium. Our next biennial meeting is in April of 2023. So instead of having the normal 2-year process, we only have about 1.5 years. Okay. So anything that talked about charges for a CFP committee, those get created and charged there, which then will be usually resubmitted at the next CFP biennium. Anything that has a directive that's assigned to the executive board, that comes to us as executive board members. And then anything that recommended something to a federal agency, then we write a letter to each individual federal agency asking to take in consideration all of our recommendations from there. Okay, so that is the entire CFP experience. It's long, it's exhausting, and it's so much fun, at least from my viewpoint. So, all right, now we will go into Q&A. Let me turn the chat on.
Becky, while you're doing that, I just want to clarify one thing. I heard it a couple times. Technically, an issue submitter cannot withdraw their issue. The issue submitter can recommend to council that they take no action because the question has already been addressed through some other organization like FDA or something like that. But I learned this from personal experience when I was a council chair. Technically, the issue submitter cannot withdraw an issue, but they can recommend no action.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for clarity. That's, yeah, that was my mistake for using wrong terminology, but yes, you're correct. It's that withdrawal is really a no action, and then it has to have a reason for no action. Okay, so let's see. Anybody have any questions from that? Oh, the event code on Identify.
It's CFP 2020.
Yes, thank you, Ann. I was trying to get back to that screen. I didn't want to tell them wrong, but I thought that's what it was. But thank you. Okay, so this is your time now to ask your questions and hopefully get rid of any jitters you have before next week. Oh, Christine Silvis.
Hello, thank you. I had a question. As an issue submitter for a program standard committee subcommittee, our attachments are in a different issue number than what our issue number is. We don't have an amendment to our issue, but we were wondering if the scribe would be able to show an attachment from that other issue number that has a final report on the screen so that the council members and attendees can see some drafts that we created.
So typically,
or as an issue submitter, if I could share my screen.
Yeah, we're not, I think, having, and please, council chairs or anyone else, as far as I know, we're not, it's only, the share screen's only going to be for the scribe. And the scribe typically only puts up the recommended solutions. In terms of documents, Christine, let's, I will discuss that with the council chairs and the scribes at our meeting this afternoon, and we'll see how we want to handle that, because I'm I want to be as similar to what we have, but I also have had in the past, but I also want to make sure we're not putting too much on our scribes to try and pull stuff up and change language all at the same time.
Christine, what's the purpose of showing the graphs and stuff? I'm just curious.
And two of our issues, one of them is to change the formatting of Appendix 1B in Program Standard 2. And we created a draft document of what that should look like. So we'd like that to be shown. And in the other issue, there are some changes to the CFP training manual in order to align Standard 2 with the quality elements in Standard 4. And we have the draft of what that looks like. And like I said, they're both in attachments to issue 17, which is the program standards report.
And what number is your issue?
I have a couple of them. The one that has the appendix B1 is issue 2-24. And the one for the amendments to the CFP training manual will be presented by Kenesha Williamson, and it is issue 2-028. So if there was a live meeting.
So they'll both be presented after the committee
Yes.
report with the attachments. Okay, that helps. Thank you. I was just curious.
Yeah, and council members should all have that stuff on hand, already reviewed, and should be ready for have reviewed all of that as well, but we'll work through that, Christine, and get on that.
Thank you. I
Becky,
appreciate it.
I think before you move on, I'm sorry, maybe
Yes.
you need to recognize Vicky. I think we already have the answer to that. And
Okay.
I hate for all of these issue submitters
Yes.
to go off thinking that they can present, because we're not going to be able to do that. You might
No,
wanna
we're not
have
going to
someone-
share screen. Yeah.
Okay, just so that
Yeah,
everybody's
no,
clear.
we're not gonna share
Vicky
screen.
may be able to
Vicky?
help us here. Thank you.
Hi, yeah, this is Vicki Everly. I'm a past issue chair, but I no longer wear that hat. But in the past, the council scribes have always been able to pull up the content documents to share with the attendees, because that's actually the document that the council is voting to accept or to modify. I understand the limitations that we have with this technology, but the scribe should be able to toggle to another screen and share the whatever the graph might be, or the image, or the paragraph that is being discussed and debated and possibly amended. So that's a very critical point. We certainly don't need to share the supporting attachments, but content documents, again, that's what the council will be voting on. And that's what the whole issue is about. Those must be able to be shared because they may need to be amended.
Yep, and we'll work through that with our scribes this afternoon. Okay, so I'm looking through yes, and Christine just wanted to clarify too that, yes, if you are an issue submitter or a presenter and you present to council and then you go back to council, you're still a voting member. So yes, that. Okay, and then Jeff Hawley, a voting member and an issue submitter, can I deliberate and vote on my issue? So I know you're an issue submitter and it's for committee work. So I would not see a conflict with you having that discussion when you get back to your council seat per se. So you put on your issue presenter for your committee work once you get up there to do that. And then after you take off your hat for issue presenter, you go back to being a voting member on the council. Okay, and then Alicia, the slides, this whole presentation is being recorded and it will be posted, and I will send the slideshow out to in that same email addresses that I sent before. Okay. Yes, so Jenny asked, is the issue presented on screen when the issue presenter presents? The scribe version is. So the recommended solutions is shared on the screen when you get ready to present. So they will put that original scribe version of the recommended solutions. That scribe version, let me No, that's going to give me problems with switching that out now. Move stuff around. No, it's not going to let me do that. I will go ahead and in the slide deck here for when I send it out to you, I will go ahead and put what a previous scribe version looked like at the end here, between here and the questions, so that you can see what that issue will look like when it's on the screen, when you get up ready to present. Will that help? Okay. And then, yeah, that Angie just clarified that it is a requirement that all the documents are attached to the committee report. So yes, and I know the Program Standards Committee had quite a few documents that were attached. So it does get cumbersome when you have all of those attached to one, but yes, we will get that worked out, Angie. Okay. First time ever attending CFP, my predecessor was a submitter. It still lists his name, but I assume I have to present. No, there is no sharing of screen or materials. So all you do is turn your camera on and unmute, and you'll verbally present your issue. Yep.
Hey, Becky, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Go
the
ahead.
chat is not back to normal. So you're reading the questions kind of, but we can't see all of them.
Oh.
So I'm just letting you know that we can't
Okay.
see what's in the chat.
Thank you. I had put it back to everyone, but it says everyone and anyone directly. But you're right. Now that I look at the chat, it does. If I do this, can you guys see them? No?
No.
Okay.
I don't think it changes once.
Okay.
Like we might see future ones, but not previous.
Okay. All right. So that was, okay. If one is an issue submitter and an issue presenter, what precedents in naming convention? Go ahead, Amit, and put issue submitter, since you are the submitter. Issue presenter is more for like Sarah's question that someone, her predecessor from where she's from was the submitter, but now she's presenting because they are no longer able to be there. Okay.
Becky, just letting you know you have someone with their hand up.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yes, Peter. Peter, hi, Peter, go ahead with your question.
Is there any place where we can find examples of the actual 2-minute elevators, pitches, what I call them, but that you have from past conferences?
We have never recorded before, so no.
So then what is usually, what are some signs, or I guess, or some examples of what makes good 2-minute? Obviously you said don't refer to the thing that you've written down, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, don't read that verbatim. They have it in front of them. I mean, you might want to pull some highlights out of there that you really want them to see, but yeah, no need to read it verbatim. Is Rodney on the on the line? Does he want to give his spiel he gave a few years ago? Because it was perfect. He's gonna kill me. No. Some people have used like a recent example of something that has happened where if that amendment had been made previously, it might have helped with the situation. So an actual example, I know some have made up kind of a situational based visual, kind of verbal visual of how that issue might help. Some people just really point to maybe the important things from the public health significance section or from a supporting document that you want to make sure. I mean, you submitted all your supporting documents. Hopefully all the council members have gone through them, but they're, if you've submitted quite a few supporting documents, there might be one section of that you really want to point to, because that really drives the issue home. So you want to make sure you focus on that. So you bring that situation up. So it kind of is all dependent. I've presented issues as a committee chair and presented issues for changes to the food code. And I know I would put on my inspector hat when I would do issues for changes to the food code and actually put kind of that visual of, so you're out there and you're in the field, you're taking temperatures and you find fish in a vacuum packaging that's at 41, but it's clearly bloated. You ask the questions as to how long it's been there. You find out it's been 4 or 5 days, and the manufacturer's packaging states that it's supposed to be open when thawed, yet there's nothing for you to use in the food code to compel that place that they need to open it to prevent Clostridium botulinum growth, kind of. And that's just off the cuff from something I did years ago. So hopefully that kind of gives you help, Peter.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Sarah, I will make sure I add, so Sarah just wants me to add her email so she can get this PowerPoint. So we will get that taken care of. Okay, and then issue submitter versus issue presenter question. I thought a previous speaker said issue presenter listed help to organize presenters. It does, but Robert, so both issue submitter and issue presenter are kind of interchangeable in this. If you're the issue submitter and you're going to be presenting, then you can use issue submitter and we'll come look for you for that. And I don't know, Keith, do you want to add on to that? I know that was part of what you were talking about, but if you're going to be presenting and you're also the submitter, we will find you.
Yeah, we've got all the council chairs have a list. So we know where you are. We know the rate of deliberation that we have going on with our cases. So we will do our best to give you a 2-issue warning. That's what I think is fair. So when if you're issue 11 and we're on issue 7, then you are 2 issues away. Well, I mean 9. My math is off. My brain is fried. My math is off. So if issue 9 is up, and you are issue 11, you are 2 issues away. So we feel like if we can send you a text message to say your issue is 2 issues away, then that should be plenty of time for you to get on Pathable and to enter in the session. So the council chairs have been discussing this as an action, and I think that's probably the most reasonable thing that we would be able to do. I would love to hear Sharon and Ann concur with that.
This is
I
Ann.
concur.
This is Ann. I would say yes, we plan on doing that for people who are council members or alternates in other councils. For any other issue submitters or presenters, we will contact them if we get to their issue and they are not present. So, it is going to be a bit hectic during council deliberations. So we really would appreciate issue submitters and presenters to keep track of where the council is at, whether it's through Attendify or whether jumping on Pathable to join the session. We know that people want to bounce around between councils, but that's why we have multiple ways that you can check and see where we're at on issues.
Thank you, Ann. That was what I was going to add. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, and yes, we are, thank you for those attended. I know we're over time, so you're welcome to leave. You will be getting the presentation. I will be adding that additional slide, and we will have this whole recording posted. So if you want to go back and look at it and clarify anything, you will be able to do that. We do have one additional question, and that was about if there's a slight modification in a supporting attachment that's related to the issue. Should the submitter or presenter clarify this modification in the 2-minute elevator speech beforehand? Yes, that would be a good focus if you've made a modification and you've submitted that modification by August 12th, use that 2 minutes to talk about that modification. Just to make sure everybody was aware and read it and is prepared. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for joining our first ever issue submitter presenter training. So hopefully that helps everybody next week. We're looking forward to a fun experience and breaking new ground. So I wish all of you well and the best of luck. I hope you have fun. That's the main thing. Okay. Bye, everybody.